Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the debut match of the YugiTuber Grand Championship Tournament. So for this match, we have Nyhmnim in the red going up against OtakuArtist in the blue. Now while the players are selecting who's going to go first or second, Nyhmnim is going to be representing Madolches, while OtakuArtist is going to be representing the underplayed and relatively unknown deck known as Super Heavy Samurai. So this might prove to be a relatively interesting match. I believe that Nyhmnim opted to go first, so let's go ahead and see what his opening play is. He activates Madolche Chateau and follows that up by normal summoning Madolche Mageline. Now, Madolche Mageline is going to enable Nyhmnim to search his deck for any Madolche card and add it to his hand. And that's really powerful. That +1 is going to put him at even card advantage with OtakuArtist when OtakuArtist takes his opening play. So Nyhmnim is going ahead and opting to take out Madolche Angeli, which is really powerful because it sets Nyhmnim up for a really explosive play next turn. And he also sets the Solemn Warning that he opened with face down. Now, OtakuArtist just goes ahead and sets a monster and passes, which is not a very good move considering that he knows that Madolche Angeli is on the horizon. And with that, Nyhmnim's just going to go ahead and summon the Angeli, knowing that there's really no threat of it being stopped. So he's going to go ahead and tribute off the Angeli and special summon any monster from his deck, presumably Hootcake, there it is. And for those of you who aren't too familiar with Madolches, this is one of their bread and butter combos. You know, they take out Angeli, summon Hootcake with Angeli, and then they banish the Angeli for Hootcake's effect to go ahead and special summon Madolche Messengelato from the deck. And when Madolche Messengelato is special summoned, it allows Nyhmnim to add any Madolche spell or trap card from his deck to his hand. So Nyhmnim is just reeling in the +1s this turn. He's extremely ahead on card advantage, and things are looking really solid for him right now. He opted to search a second Madolche Chateau and replaced it with his first one. And he's going to overlay the Messengelato and the Mageline to summon the boss monster of Madolches, which is Madolche Queen Tiramisu. Now, Tiramisu has an extremely powerful effect. By detaching a material, Nyhmnim is allowed to return Madolche cards from his graveyard to his deck to shuffle away cards on his opponent's side of the field back into their deck. And he can do that for up to 2 targets. Now, because of Madolche Chateau, Nyhmnim was actually allowed to add the Madolche Mageline back to his hand rather than shuffle it back into the deck. So that's extremely good because it's just another +1, allowing Nyhmnim to just maintain that advantage over OtakuArtist. Now, Nyhmnim go ahead and activates Upstart Goblin, giving OtakuArtist an extra 1,000 life points. Maybe he's looking to extend his play, but it looks like he's just entering the battle phase and attacking with both Madolche Hootcake and Madolche Queen Tiramisu. And both of these monsters have an additional 500 attack points thanks to the Madolche Chateau. So Hootcake is actually 2,000 and Queen Tiramisu is actually 2,700. So that puts OtakuArtist down to 4,300 life points. And Nyhmnim just sets the Pot of Duality and passes his turn back to OtakuArtist. Now, this really just puts OtakuArtist in a really awkward spot. He hasn't gotten any advantage. He knows that Tiramisu has a material, so he can just go ahead and detach next turn. And Nyhmnim is also able to activate Hootcake again, so it puts Nyhmnim in a really good position. I'm not familiar with Super Heavy Samurai exactly and the types of builds that they run, but I know some sort of mass removal card would be extremely powerful right now, like Darkhold or Regeki, because just clearing that board and getting that +1 in this case would just be extremely good and would set Nyhmnim relatively far back. So OtakuArtist is just contemplating his moves right now. He goes ahead and special summons Super Heavy Samurai Scales. Now, for those of you who don't know what this card does, if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters and you don't control any, you're allowed to special summon Scales from the hand. And additionally, if OtakuArtist had a monster in his graveyard, he'd be allowed to special summon it out to the field. But unfortunately, he's not allowed to get that +1 off of Scales. So he goes ahead and equips it, though, with Super Heavy Samurai Soul Piercer. Now, what this card is, it acts as an equip spell. And the primary effect is that it gives the monster it's equipped to piercing, but more importantly is that when it's sent to the graveyard, OtakuArtist is allowed to add any super heavy samurai monster from his deck to his hand. So it's just a really good searcher card, and just helps him tutor out his deck to get whatever he needs in that case. He goes ahead and sets another monster and passes turn back to Nyhmnim. I really don't like that play because Nyhmnim's just free to just completely go off with the field that he's already established. I mean, we've mentioned this earlier, the tiramisu still has a material. The Who Cake is free to go ahead and activate again if Nyhmnim has a card in the graveyard to go ahead and banish. And he just has a hand full of good cards. He has another Magdalene, so he can get the plus off of that. Nyhmnim might potentially be able to game OtakuArtist here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But let's go ahead and see what Nyhmnim opts to do. So it looks like Nyhmnim's going to activate the effect of Tiramisu. He's going to detach Messengelato. It's going to send back Chateau to his deck. Now, since it's not a Madolche monster, it's not going to be added back to the hand. And he's going to spin away the Unknown face down, which is really good because, for all we know, that could have been a Fossil Dyna, or it could have been just something really random that OtakuArtist might have been teching. So, Nyhmnim did a good job clearing the Unknown threat, so now he knows what he's facing. Relatively, unless OtakuArtist has, hand traps or something. So he goes ahead and summons Magdalene, which, as we've already discussed, Magdalene will just allow Nyhmnim to get another plus, which is really good. And it's going to potentially allow him to extend his combos even further. He goes ahead and adds the Madolche Mufui, which Mufui allows Nyhmnim to normal summon another monster, which he won't be able to do this turn, but he might do it next turn. But it looks like he's going to banish the Messengelato for the Hoot Cake to be able to special summon another monster out of the deck. And it looks like he's going to go for a Mufui right there. And that's going to actually enable Nyhmnim to go for a rank 3 Xyz play, which is really good because he's going to select Leviair, the Sea Dragon. Now, Leviair, by detaching a material, allows Nyhmnim to special summon a level 4 lower banished monster to his side of the field. So he can go ahead and special summon that Messengelato or that Angeli that he has banished. And either way, they both have synergy with the Magdalene at this point, because he could go for a rank 4 Xyz play, which that's exactly what he's going to do. And I assume he's going to make, there it is, he's going to make a second Queen Tiramisu. That is really good, because now Nyhmnim is able to detach for Queen Tiramisu, spin back the cards, or rather just even the only monster. He doesn't even have to spin back both of them. And Nyhmnim can actually just go ahead and push for game here, assuming that OtakuArtist doesn't run any... And there we go. OtakuArtist just goes ahead and conceded game 1. With the magic of editing, we skip the side decking process, and we're going to go straight into game 2. So, this is going to be really interesting to see what happens here. So, OtakuArtist opted to go first, and he just sets a monster and passes again. Now, I know the Super Heavy Samurai style is to play defensive, but in this case, I mean, going off of game 1, that's not really going to help OtakuArtist a lot in the long run. I mean, as we saw, Queen Tiramisu is very devastating against this deck. So Gage activates Upstart Goblin, drawing a card, and Otaku gains an extra 1,000 life points. And as we saw from game 1, Upstart Goblin's irrelevant because Nyhmnim was able to OTK him in 2 turns. He goes ahead and summons the Magdalene, which is going to be able to get a plus off of that, adding any card he wants. He's going to add the Mufui. And as I mentioned that combo before with Angeli, the best thing to have is Mufui with it, because you can normal the Mufui, go into Angeli, and then you can go ahead and do the entire combo, making the Leviair and the Tiramisu, and just extending for a whole lot of damage. He goes ahead and sets the Book of Moon and Solemn Warning, which he actually opened the Solemn Warning in both games, which is extremely powerful of a card to open with. And OtakuArtist just sets another monster. If OtakuArtist doesn't mount any sort of offense, it's not going to do him any good, because Nyhmnim's just going to go ahead and summon the Mufui, use its effect to summon the Angeli. Oh, but we're actually met with a max C from OtakuArtist. That changes things up quite a bit. So now Nyhmnim is actually under max C, so this changes things to an extent that Nyhmnim has to make the decision if he wants to commit to the board or not. So he goes ahead and plays the Hoot Cake rather than the Angeli, which is an interesting decision. And with that, he has the potential for a rank 3 Exceeds play. But I'm actually not sure where he's going to go from here. I see, so Nyhmnim is actually asking if he wanted to take the playback. So I guess it really depends if OtakuArtist will allow him to take the playback. I mean, it's like we said, this tournament's really just for fun, if anything. So, I mean, if people make a mistake, then it's whatever. So he actually goes ahead and plays the Angeli rather than the Hoot Cake, which is the correct move. And I actually think OtakuArtist drew an extra card, not meaning to. Because Nyhmnim was meaning to special summon something else, so... But we'll see. So, regardless, Nyhmnim goes ahead and tributes off the Angeli for the Hoot Cake, going ahead and initiating the entire combo. Hoot Cake goes ahead and banishes the Angeli to special the Messengelato. I presume there it is. And then Messengelato is going to go ahead and trigger, allowing Nyhmnim to add probably Medulce Chateau, but potentially Ticket. I guess we'll go ahead and see what he decides to add. He's going to go ahead and add the Ticket, which can provide Nyhmnim with a lot more potential plays. He activates the Ticket, and then he's going to overlay his 2 monsters, or his 2 level 3s, to make the Leviair, just similar to last game. He's going to detach for the Leviair, and he's going to bring back the banished Angeli. Which, like I was saying, this is the combo that's just very devastating. Oh, when we actually see an Effect Veiler from OtakuArtist. That's really interesting, so it really disrupts the play now. But unfortunately, I think it's too late, because Nyhmnim is actually still allowed to overlay his Messengelato and his Mageline into a Tiramisu. So, in the long run, it really won't do a whole lot. I mean, it stops Nyhmnim from having an additional monster, but I don't really think it's going to do a whole lot for him. But Nyhmnim's just checking his extra deck, contemplating his options. Now that his play's been stopped, I think he's just wanting to consider his options, seeing as how he might not be too familiar with what the Super Heavy Samurai's effects are. He might be trying to just work around that entirely. Or he also does have the Book of Moon set, so he might be contemplating if he wants to activate the Book of Moon to ensure that the Leviair's effect goes through. But he's actually allowing the Effect Veiler to go through. He's overlaying the Messengelato and the Mageline for the Tiramisu, giving OtakuArtist another draw, putting him at 7 cards in hand now. I mean, talk about the Max C challenge. I mean, Nyhmnim's taking it, if anything. So Tiramisu hits the board. Nyhmnim's going to activate. Oh, and we have a second Effect Veiler getting dropped on the Tiramisu. But Nyhmnim's going to activate Book of Moon this time. And for those of you that don't know, if a monster is being targeted for its effect being negated from a card like Effect Veiler or Breakthrough Skill, if the monster gets Book of Moon will set the target face down. The Breakthrough Skill, or the Effect Veiler in this case, will no longer have a valid target to negate, and the effect of the monster will resolve regularly. So that is why that works in that way. It's a really cool, sneaky way to kind of get around things like Effect Veiler. But in any case, once again, Nyhmnim cleared OtakuArtist's field and just swings for 1800 with that Leviair. Oh, but we see a Gores come down. Is that 4 hand traps? That was 4 hand traps in one turn. So I don't think any of us were expecting to see a Gores come down. So not only does OtakuArtist now have a Gores on the field, but he has 6 cards in hand thanks to that Max C. So, I mean, in terms of resources, they are almost about even. So that Gores makes things really interesting. OtakuArtist sets a monster. He enters the battle phase and attacks the Tiramisu, attempting to get rid of it, but Nyhmnim has the Mirror Force for the answer. And that is just really bad timing, because that would just have been so key for OtakuArtist to clear off that Tiramisu and prevent it from disrupting his board any further. So Mirror Force resolves, destroying the Gores and the token. And once again, OtakuArtist is just left with a monster just set on the field. You know, it's really discouraging to see that his only form of offense so far has been hand traps and Gores. And the one time he gets the Gores out, that he gets Mirror Force. That's just really unfortunate for him. Nyhmnim's just going to go ahead and flip up the Tiramisu. And unfortunately, he has no targets to shuffle back for Tiramisu, so he needs to make a play by detaching for the Leviair to have something engraved so he can spin for Tiramisu. So he specials back the Angeli. And, I mean, now that Nyhmnim has the Angeli, he's free to just go ahead and do the entire combo with Angeli all over again if he so chooses. But let's go ahead and see what he decides to do. I mean, he still has a really strong hand. He has a Who Cake, a Messengelato, and a Mewfui. He hasn't normal summoned yet. So Nyhmnim can make an extremely strong board right now. And not to mention, he also has the ticket, so it's just going to be really devastating. If OtakuArtist doesn't have any more hand traps, this might be the end of it. Nyhmnim looking at his graveyard. He has one Madolche card in graveyard, so he could spin back that one monster with Tiramisu. And that's really all he needs, because right now on board, he has 5,000 damage, and that's not counting the fact that he has not normal summoned yet. So he goes ahead and activates Tiramisu, sending the Who Cake back to the deck, and he's going to spin back the face-down defense position monster. Again, it's the same thing we've seen all game. I mean, Nyhmnim really doesn't have to do anything else. This favors Nyhmnim's matchup here. So OtakuArtist shuffles the set monster back into his deck, and then Ticket's going to trigger, allowing Nyhmnim to search and add a Madolche card to his hand. Or rather, special summon it, I'm sorry. And then I'm assuming that Nyhmnim's just going to overlay here. Looks like that's what he's going to do. I wonder what he's going to go into. He could potentially go into a second Tiramisu? I'm not sure if that would really do anything, though. He's contemplating going into Diamond Crab King, which would be really interesting. Just double checking the effect of it. I think Nyhmnim's looking to go for game here since he has an open field. And with Diamond Crab King's attack being a hefty 3,000, I mean, that 3,000, 22, 4,000, that would be 7,000 damage. So Nyhmnim would just be 200 short there. Wonder what he's going to do. I mean, whatever the case may be, OtakuArtist is in a really bad position right now. I mean, he's fighting for his life, if he even still has a life after this game. Yep, and there it is. Nyhmnim's just going to go ahead and summon the Mewfui. He's going to go ahead and bring out the Messengelato, trigger the Messengelato to search out the Chateau. He's going to activate the Chateau, assuming... There it is. That pumps up all of the Madolche monsters by 500, giving him an extra 2,000 attack points on board. And that might be game right there. If all these attacks connect. He attacks with the Leviair. And OtakuArtist just taking down his life points. There we go. Obviously, Nyhmnim looking to dodge Gores here, but it looks like OtakuArtist is just dropping it down. Regardless of the Chateau, it doesn't really matter. Nyhmnim had plenty of attack damage on board to win round 1 of the YugiTuber Grand Championship. Thank you all so much for watching the video. We'll see you in the next match.